I am so pleased to have back on the lines Winston Shrout of Winston Shrout Solutions in Commerce. It has been too long since we have been together in this virtual place of mentorship and teaching and loving being sovereign folks and getting into the kind of technologies that help you realize that in your material existence. And that is exactly what Winston Shrout has been doing for decades now, is giving you the tools to be full, creative humans in your beingness. And upcoming at the end of this month, the gardening members are going to be coming together into the very special meeting with Winston just at the end of this month. It's going to be the fifth annual members only event, October 24th through the 26th, at that beautiful place, the Grotto Sanctuary and Conference Center in Portland, Oregon. Winston is on the line. Winston, sir, coming up at this fifth annual members event, these are always a special gathering of folks that are dedicated to putting into practice the principles that you are offering with your wisdom and guidance. Do you really look forward to these members events? What does it mean to get together with some of the folks that are a part of your gardening project?
Well, yes, I do look forward to it. We started about 4 years ago, a kind of a club. We called it the Gardeners Club, or Gardening with Winston, for something better to call it. We were trying to nurture further study, so that the students could perhaps rise to a higher level in technology ability and so forth. And so what we did, we organized this club, and as members of the club, we have two conference calls per month, and the gardeners send in questions on various subjects that they're dealing with, and then I answer those things, and then those calls are actually archived so that the members can go back and review those things. So at this point right here, we have about, over 4 years of question and answers. Probably most of the questions that people have as they come along have been asked and answered, in some cases several times. But again, it was the effort to encourage those who have undertaken the study of commerce and these kind of things, the opportunity to upgrade themselves and to also ask pertinent questions on their journey. With that, there's also basically a blog spot or a chat room kind of situation where the members can interface with each other, go back and forth and so forth. And then the other thing is that every year we have an annual gardeners event, full-blown seminar situation, where we gather together, we update, some technologies, perhaps if we have something new that we're trying to put across, then we'll expose that at that particular time. So by and large, it's a program, for upgrade, as most students, should realize. You don't go to high school, when you're just starting out in grade school. And so many are on the journey. And so we try to encourage, participation, question asking, interfacing with others. And then certainly when we come together, we just seem like we have a good time.
Oh, that is for sure, sir. I've had the opportunity to come to a members event and then your lecture and seminar in Redondo Beach. Wow. You levitated those hotels. I'm telling you, there is some special kind of sauce that happens when you and the folks that are studying with you come together. Let me ask this. In coming back together, do you find that the upgrades and the new information have to do with new discoveries in new technologies, or is it finding out tactics that are needed to further each of these technologies because of the response from state, the courts, and people? Is it a further discovery of new technologies, or is it new ways to propel old technologies within the system that they are being used?
Well, actually, I believe that it's both. Items, where we have had upgrades in technology, certainly those things will be exposed, and new things that are being developed, we expose those things as well. But one of the key things, and this is one of the things I encourage attendees to do, is to get to know your neighbor. We have some very talented people that come to these seminars, kind of the boots on the ground. And, some of the things they say to me at those seminars absolutely amazes me. And so, like I say, I myself am a student first and foremost, and I'm always encouraged, when people come and participate, bring their knowledge and experience to the floor so we can discuss those things. And so I always encourage anybody that comes to the seminars, talk to your neighbors. If you see 3 or 4 sitting around at break time, just go over and listen in. You would be surprised at some of the accomplishments that some of these people bring to the table.
Why is it that we don't hear enough about these technologies out in the public, in the news, within the courts? Is it that they do not have to publish, they don't have to put into the judicial record the use of these technologies?
Well, when we try to kind of stay a step ahead of things, but there is a huge amount of pushback that comes from the system. As I've tried to emphasize, to students in my public proclamations and so forth, and that is, we're not here to destroy anything. We're here to make sure that the system operates properly. And when we have individuals or different agencies and so forth, that are not operating according to their charter, because all these agencies are corporations. And so when we have individuals, individually or collectively and so forth, that are not abiding by their contract, their charter, and their agreement, that we need to deal with those things. And so it takes the action of people. The power is in the people, and if the people decide that they're fed up with this or they're fed up with that, then it's the duty of the people to come forward and say, hey, we've been watching what you've been doing over here, and you're not abiding by your agreements, your contracts that were made, when you took that office or when you took that power and so forth. And so now we need to reckon with that.
And the comfort, of course, is that there always is a remedy, and that is the beautiful thing. I was just watching on the internet, somebody posted how the police they photographed the police pulling them over, changing the story as to why they pulled them over. That they were demanding, they thought that one of the passengers had a warrant out, and he's like, I'm not that person, I don't have to get out of the car. And they threatened that they're going to take the child away. They brought out the dogs on them, and the video ended when one of the passengers got out of the car and they both were arrested. And it was it's one of those videos where when people know a little bit about their rights and try and stand their ground, that the authorities, not the power, but that the authorities will test you and will push and are looking for holes and very arrogantly think that they are right. And it is something to really have to know exactly where you are at because, boy, they certainly are an intimidating bunch when you don't know where you're at.
Well, we have some of these events that come up. I would guess that it's probably not the majority of the situations that happen. From time to time, there are things like that happen. They go viral on the internet, tend to enrage people, so forth and so on.
Right.
But in the majority of cases, those kind of things do not happen. And certainly we encourage anybody not to provoke a situation, in a traffic stop or in some of these situations, because it can get out of hand, and we all know that. So we don't handle it that way. If we handle it pleasantly and peacefully at the roadside, that's great. If you get the traffic ticket or whatever, settle it into court, where you're not in danger, by the dark roadside or something like that. But, from time to time we do have some of these things come up. So, yes, it is important to understand, the situation and what your remedies are. I very seldom refer to rights. I usually refer to remedies.
Very good.
Because, again, the word right refers to basically what people call common law, but since we're not involved in common law, we're involved in admiralty law, then we talk about the word remedy.
Very good.
And so, it's important to understand those words and the proper place to use them.
Very good. Very, very good point, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Very good point. And I know that there are a lot of people that still want to say that common law is predominant. Why isn't common law predominant? Why don't those remedies or those rights apply?
There's several reasons. One of the prime reasons is because of the type of money that we use. Common law calls for an execution of contract, for instance, and execution of contract can only come when consideration is passed in both directions or to all the parties to the contract and so forth. And that demonstrates that you have to be using a hard currency or a paper currency that is redeemable in gold or silver, neither of which option is available to us in our present situation. So when we start to talk about the common law versus the admiralty, or what we call contract law and so forth, you have to understand the nature of money to make any sense out of it. And so, for those reasons, there's been a lot of misunderstandings. I myself would prefer not to use the word common law. Mm-hmm. I would say I would probably use the word law. This is an in-law proceeding, and there's ways to develop that process and so forth. But for the most part, most people are actually involved in what we call admiralty court, admiralty jurisdiction, admiralty law, and so forth, because of the nature of the money.
Yes, because of the nature. Very fantastic, sir. Well, coming up from October 24th through the 26th, it's just a couple of weeks away, is your 5th annual conference. Let's talk about some of the topics that you'll be speaking about. The very first thing off the bat, of course, are current events. And I have been seeing in the news, and I'm not sure if it's hyped or anything, that the economy is being set up for yet another abandonment, another crash. Here it is, the Dow is over 17,000 and really cannot see that it's justified in the financials of some of the companies out there, etc. Is this something for us to pay attention to, the economy, or what do you think are the most important current events for your gardening members to take a look at?
Well, we always like to have a section on current events, things that are on people's minds. One of the features of our current events is usually, and this time too we will be able to, is to get Keith Scott. Keith comes on Skype usually gives a presentation about, things from his world, and then people have a chance to pose a few questions to him. He, for those that don't know who Keith is, he's actually the settler on the Sukarno Trust, and that is the trust that holds the gold accounts that underwrite all of the world's currencies. So if there's anybody that knows things about the reality of what's going on, aside from all the rumors and hoopla and whatnot, Keith can give you the straight scoop on that. So it's our privilege, as it just turns out, Keith and I are, personal friends, and so he's very accommodating. When I ask him, would he appear on Skype and give us a message and answer questions? And then certainly topmost on people's minds are the subjects of the RV, the redemption of dinars, the global reset of currency, and some of those things. So we're right in the thick of things, and there's so much disinformation all over the place about all that. And so hopefully we can analyze some of those situations in regards to the economy and so forth, to people's satisfaction, so to avoid fear and
Yes.
to avoid misunderstandings. I mean,
Yes.
people, we get into this syndrome, with Chicken Little and the sky's falling in and so forth, and then that affects the way people act and the way that they, carry on their lives. And if you're making decisions in your life based upon disinformation, well, you see the consequence of it. So current events is really a good feature.
And secondarily, you are talking about the reversionary interest. What is that all about?
Actually, that's it's something that's been in the works here for a little while, and we've made some inroads with that, taking some of the information that various ones have brought forward and have been willing to talk about on the internet. And so that has very high hopes as far as the good effect that it can have on people. In essence, what is happening is that we're doing an assignment according to their statutes, and the result of which is prescribed as remedies in their statutes. And in essence, it goes back, I'll have to explain just a little bit of history, and that was go back to the Civil War days. You understand that the what's called the Civil War was actually the war of the federal government against all of the states. As a result of that particular unpleasantness, the federal government won that war, and in consequence of that, we have in the states a military occupation, which is governed by what's known as the Liebert Code. Now, you can go and look those things up. But in any event, to further the situation, during World War II, with the problems that surrounded many United States industries and companies and individuals who were supplying things to the Nazis, there was something that, well, actually it's Title 50 of the United States Code, but it was called Trading with the Enemy Act, and it prohibits those things so that, American industry would not be supplying arms to the Axis there that would kill American soldiers. And so, so that was the Trading with the Enemy Act, and there were also several acts surrounded that. But what happened is that after World War II was over with, Title 50 was modified and so forth to the extent that the people, the citizens, I shouldn't say people, the citizens of the United States were deemed to be enemies of the state. And in essence, we were looked at as being enemy combatants. Now, the problem that arises with that is that the availability of remedies and so forth, such as the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution and the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, both dealing with due process of law, are not available to the enemy combatants. And so legitimately, the government can round up everybody in America and stick them down in Guantanamo Bay, down at the prison down there. So you see the craziness of what's developed, and so the technology that we're working with this assignment of reversionary interest using the birth certificate and different technologies with financing statements and so forth, is simply to assign the title to the U.S. Department of Treasury. Now, most people don't know this, but the United States Department of Treasury is not a U.S. government organization. The Department of Treasury was actually split off as a cabinet position in 1920.
Huh.
Eventually, it evolved itself into the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. In the International Monetary Fund, of course, is a part of the one world government headed up by the United Nations. So we have these things we're dealing with, and so what we're in essence doing is using their statutes, we're assigning the reversionary interest in the title as it appears on the birth certificate to the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Treasury. And what that means is that really we become the true beneficiary of our estate. Now, there's been a lot of work done on this over the years, and a lot of starts and stops and all kinds of things that have gone on. But in essence, that's what we're working on in that respect. Now, we're also going to take that one step further. And you just have to come. One of my associates is going to make a presentation on the private side. This birth certificate, reversionary interest, and so forth is on the public side, if people understand the difference between the two. But the rest of the story is we're going to basically take control of the escrow of the real estate, so that people can operate with that without a whole lot of interference. So that's a real big part of this. And when we say we're going to introduce some new technology, it'll be in regards to those two particular items.
On the lines, Winston Shrout, and I know that you guys are so interested in getting up to Portland, Oregon for the 5th annual Members Only event. It's October 24th through the 26th. It's at the Grotto Sanctuary, and I'm telling you, it is a sanctuary. It is a place where you are surrounded by the Catholic Church. And it is a beautiful establishment, and the place for true archangels and all of your folks that are looking to actually be angels on this planet can meet with Winston, and also special guests that are going to be joining you at the Grotto Sanctuary right there in Portland, Oregon. And we are talking about some of the topics that are going to be up there. Already we have been speaking for almost 20 minutes, and I'm telling you, this is the way time, this is what happens to time when you're with Winston, is that before you know it, 2 or 3 days have passed, and you feel that you have just been scratching the surface, because
That's
there's
true.
just, yeah, absolutely. Now, look, you have another special guest that is coming. Do you want to talk about that? Or
Yes,
is that
I
going to
do.
be a little...
For the longest time, we have realized that we have to have balance in our lives, and there are several areas. 2 of them that I want to speak of here has to do with technology and spirituality. Now, what happens in anybody's life, if any facet of their life gets out of balance, either it's lagging behind or it's surging ahead, either one, it's necessary for a peaceful life, if I can use that term, to get all of the elements that make up, the man or the woman, get them all into balance. Because, if you it's like sitting down and eating 3 or 4, Snickers bars. You're going to put yourself way out of balance. And so everybody knows the effect of that. But also in regards to either scientific technology or commercial technology, if those things go way ahead of your spiritual development, you're going to have a sugar high, just like if you eat the Snickers candy bars. So one of the things we want to discuss on our Friday night is that I had the opportunity. Oh, let me back up a little bit. Some time ago, to facilitate that thought process, I had developed a sister website to our WISIC website, which we just named Exocommerce, where we wanted to bring in some of the thought process that's just a little bit different, perhaps in some ways, than people are accustomed to. And so in consequence of those kinds of efforts, I've been, careful to reach out to a certain community who have a lot to offer. And so about, let's see, the second week in September, Rob Potter, who I think you've interviewed, Eben.
Oh, yes.
Rob was going to put on a workshop. It's kind of called a healing workshop or whatever, but he invited some key figures to this particular workshop on a variety of subjects, most of which had to do with spiritual enlightenment. And so there was a lot of talk about UFOs and this and that went on with some of those things. In any event, the last speaker at that particular conference was a man named James Gilliland. Now, many of the listeners will recognize that name. James has been in what we call the UFO community for a very long time, and he is one of the most grounded individuals in that community that I've ever encountered. So in any event, he was the last speaker. He was the linchpin. He was the guy that nailed it all down. And he is a marvelous individual. In any event, he got right up, and he has a ranch in close to Trout Lake, Washington, near Mount Adams, which is called the ECETI Ranch. It's ECETI, which is an acronym. I can't remember all the words, but if you want to go to his website, it's ECETI, I think it's .org. And you can look at all the things. But in any event, for the last 27 years, he has been on this particular property. As it turns out, right through the middle of the property, there's two natural ley lines that intersect. And they have huge amounts of positive energy, vortexes. And wow, just go on his website and look at all the things that he can show. And, aside from, however, a lot of people just go up there so they can watch the spaceships fly over. Big deal. You can go any place on the planet and see that. However, the main focus of that project there is actually for spiritual development. And so I had anyway, at the conference at Mount Shasta that Rob Potter had put on, James had the opportunity to be the anchor man. And one of the first things he said when he got up was that if it had not been for Winston Shrout, he would have lost that ranch. And now that was a shock to me. I didn't even know the man.
Wow.
But somewhere along the line, some of those who were assisting him in some of the legal problems that they were encountering with the local and state government and so forth, apparently some of those who were helping him had been conversant with some of the technologies, that we had talked about in many of our seminars and so forth. And so, like I say, it was a shock to me when he said that. I mean, I sat up straight in my seat and said, "What?" Anyway, after the seminar was over with there, I had a chance to shake hands with him and visit with him for a little while. And I could tell, that no doubt that he and I would be friends because, kind of like brothers from another mother. Hey, some of us old guys kind of have that about us, And so I'm just a few years older than him. But he had been on that property for 27 years and developing that property, literally thousands of people have been there, have felt the energy, watched the spaceships go over. There's a huge amount of orbs that come in, and fairies. They have a lot of elementals up there that from time to time actually expose themselves. And so, he has that going on. So Monday week ago, he called me and said that they were going to have a conference up there. As it turned out, some of those who had helped him and assisted him with some of those legal matters, they were going to do a conference for people. And he asked me, would I like to come? And I said, "Oh, sure. That'd be great," because I've never been up there. I mean, I've watched on the YouTube, different presentations, been on the website and all these kind of things, which always intrigued me. Because I look at all that stuff all the time just to see what's going on in that community. So when he made that invitation, I didn't hesitate. I said, "Yes, sir, I'll be right there." So we had the opportunity to go up Friday evening and spent Saturday and Sunday there. I would have stayed another day if I didn't have other commitments. But in any event, so they had that little convention or conference there, and they asked me to participate, and so I did. And kind of tied a few things together for some of the folks and whatnot. But key to it was had a chance to sit down, and speak, with James on a one-to-one. We visited, shared experiences, and so forth. And actually on Saturday night, he had me on his radio broadcast. I guess he broadcasts once a week or something like that. And so he had a chance to interview me on that call, so that was kind of fun. And what I'm trying to say about all this conversation here is that we need this balance. And so some of us who are fighting the fight and slogging through the trenches of commerce and all the things we run into would be greatly facilitated by those who work in the realm of spirituality.
Yes.
Now, this is non-denominational stuff, and this is not New Age stuff either. Like James said, he says, "I'm telling you about things that I have actually experienced." You see, and so he's not talking about stuff he don't know about. He's saying, I'm not going. He just says plain out, "I'm not going to tell you something that I don't know."
Right.
And so I think that by reaching out into that community and hearing what they have to say, sharing experiences with them, and then combining that with the commercial things that we work with, then perhaps we can arrive at a better balance in the things that we're undertaking. And so James has agreed that he would give a presentation on Friday night.
Wow.
And so this is a real treat to have someone of his character and ability and so forth to actually address a gardeners convention of people who have been diligently working in the commercial arena to demonstrate, some of the levels of spirituality to which they can attain. Now, for instance, from time to time, we hear reports, somebody will say, for instance, well, I've worked on acceptance for value. I've done it 10 times and it never worked.
Right.
And then we have somebody else stand up and say, well, I did it 7 times. It worked 6 times. And I think I'm going to be able to make it work on the 7th. Now, what is the difference between those two? Is it possible that the difference between the two is because of that imbalance, that we're talking about? So I thought it would be very good to have someone of the caliber, that James demonstrates, to come in and show the possibilities that people can work at, as they try to develop their spirituality.
I think that is the one of the key elements is having that trust, faith, that centeredness, so that you can, walk through what seem to be very dark crevices around folks that have lost light or have very little light, and to maintain your own. I think that's going to be such an incredible addition of spiritual technology.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that, like, for instance, when I get up and give a lecture or give information out, that people receive it on whatever level they're at. Now, people say, well, I watched or I went to a seminar, or I watched the DVD. I watched it the second time and I got more. I watched it the third time and I got more. And that's because, I'm actually speaking from a 4th or 5th dimension when I speak. And people who are on the 3rd dimension, they hear it on the 3rd dimension. And perhaps if they listen a little bit more. So people come to a certain amount of enlightenment and move up a little bit. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish. Certainly we've demonstrated that the 3rd dimension is simply an illusion.
Yes.
It's a temporary circumstance that we find ourselves in, but a necessary circumstance. But when we lay this body down, the thing that remains is the spirit, the spiritual. And so certainly people would want to develop spirituality so that when they leave here, when they go on, they take that with them. And so when people leave this planet, they don't care anything about acceptance for value, bonds, trust, or anything else. What they're really worried about is their spiritual development. And so, so I'm trying, in this particular seminar, I want to emphasize that. And then certainly when we have, those kind of discussions, we have James, who will explain many of these things to us, it would be very beneficial to the people that listen to that message.
Well, I looked up James Gillian's website, and the ECETI stands for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And he has been doing this for decades. It's kind of like you're saying that his ranch is around 60 acres?
Yes.
60 acres. And guess, not only are there little rabbits and foxes and things like that.
He also has a herd of
acres.
yak up there if anybody's interested in it.
A herd of yak?
Well, I don't know, but they're there.
And a herd of orbs and light ships.
Oh, yeah.
That show up. And you can go to his website, www.eceti.org, or better yet, make plans, because you still do have some time, to come up to Portland, Oregon, October 24th through the 26th for the 5th annual members event. Because not only is there going to be no more technology of the 3 and 4th D realm, but technology of the 5th and above, as Winston is inviting you to spread your wings and to understand that the work you do here is also being done on other dimensions, and that you are able to tune in.
Yeah, and let me suggest also that many people who hear this and who are interested in this particular seminar, If you'll simply contact the office and talk to Melissa there, express your interest, then you can join, the membership and attend this seminar. Like I say, that there are several advantages, to this membership, as I described when we first talked about it. But in the event that you're not presently a member and you would like to come to this seminar, if you'll simply contact the office and speak to Melissa, and she can make that arrangement for you.
The phone number to do so is 971-333-1005. 971-333-1005. And you can go to www.wssic.com. That's Winston Shrout, solutionsincommerce.com/seminar, and you will find everything you need. There's a hotel very close by, some lovely things to choose from that have special rates, and they give you the nice group code to use. That's very close to the grotto. It's going to be, it is an incredible event coming up October 24th through the 26th. We didn't even have time to cover all the other topics because we'll be talking for a few hours. But this is just the wet your whistle. And I'll tell you that this is going to be a very special event and that you must be there at the 5th Annual Members Event with Winston Shrout at the Grotto Sanctuary and Conference Center in Portland, Oregon. Winston, do you have any final words for our lovely listeners?
Yeah. Well, just for fun, remember that tomorrow, being the 8th of October, we have another eclipse, another blood moon coming up. This is part of the input or the inflow of energy that's constantly coming into the planet. And so watch for it. We have had huge amounts, huge infusions of positive energy into the planet now for a very long time, certainly starting with December of 2012 and subsequent to that. And this is good energy. It might make you sleepy or whatever, but when that good positive energy comes into the planet and affects the people, it has the tendency to purge out the negative energy from your system, from your body. So you might find yourself tired and so forth, but just lay down and rest and accept, receive, that which is being sent to us of that positive nature, and drive out the old negative, the fears, the superstitions, and all the stuff that we seem bound down with. And, it really, Eben, the greatest effect that we've had as Solutions in Commerce is to break down the mind control of the people. And what we do is we open up, if people can just visualize that they have at least one possibility different than what they had suspected, then they start to think. They start to be creative. They start to use the right side of their brain and stop being so left-sided and so forth. And certainly since we've had such a huge infusion of the feminine energy on the planet over the last number of years. And so you kind of have to open up a little bit to receive that. And if you will, then you'll be greatly benefited by it. So, again, for those that want to come out, go over a little bit of 3D commercial technology that I think will be of great assistance to you if you want to come out and receive a little bit of spiritual enlightenment and so forth. Hey, we're just going to have a good time.